my lovely divine reflections. I've missed y'all, and I value your presence in this very moment, wherever it is that you're tuning in from. I am so grateful that you have chosen to be here with me. I really wanted to make a video specifically regarding my relationship with spirit, because I tend to gravitate a lot of very curious people who are interested in furthering their knowledge as far as spirituality goes, or quantum physics, or neuroscience, or all of the above, because I feel that they're all kind of interconnected, and also people who are kind of veering away from religion and are wanting to just learn more. And so this is for those curious minds and the people that are kind of in a gray area, but also if you are an awakened, evolved being, I am simply a mirror. So for everything it is that I'm going to express, I will say be extremely open-minded, because this is my belief system, and it's what works for me, and what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me, and vice versa. Just recognize that everybody has something set for them that works for them for their reasons, whether it be a karmic debt that they have to pay off, or just where it is that they're in life, their environment, their culture, etc., etc. So again, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. So first and foremost, there is a difference between spirituality as we know it and religion. Religion is more of a construct. There's a lot more rules. You go by the sacred text, whatever it is, whatever religion it is that you are invested in. You go to a temple of sorts, whether that be a church or a mosque or a Buddhist temple, or your own sanctuary. If you create sanctuary, then that is your temple. Now, it's very important to note that just because somebody is investing in something different outside of what works for you, that doesn't make it wrong. Because, example, things like meditation versus prayer. In my understanding of it, meditation is listening to God and prayer is speaking to God. However, some people may feel more comfortable and more in tune with spirit when they pray, and they may not really feel anything when they meditate, which is perfectly okay, because again, different things serve different people for their reason. Now, I started growing up in a Christian/Catholic household. Both sides of my family, one side was Catholic, the other was Christian. So I already had this kind of understanding as far as, Jesus Christ. I went to Sunday school, I learned how to read the Holy Bible and things like that. That was the foundation that was laid for me. However, I didn't really feel like what it is that I was learning necessarily resonated as far as studying the stories in the Bible, learning about the people. For me, it just didn't make me feel what it is that I saw these people who were catching the Holy Ghost and all of that. I wasn't feeling that. I wasn't feeling that tapped into spirit, and I didn't really feel a connection to it. And so my mother was actually the one who told me, if you want to learn about different religions, go ahead and do it, because you should be able to decide for yourself what works for you. And I thank her a million times over for doing that, because I was pushed in a point in my life where it was very dark, very confusing, and I was very cloud-minded. And so awakening for me was not a pretty process. It was actually very ugly and very painful, because what happens when you undergo this awakening, it's basically like a stripping of every single thing you've known, of your identity, of relationships, of habits that don't serve you. It's just a very painful stripping of what you are. And when you strip that away, you're exposed to what you are. And whether or not that's operating in a very high vibrational state or a low vibrational state, it's really just your creation, and you recognize your spiritual essence. But I may be getting a little ahead of myself, so let me backtrack. So I did not feel that connected to spirit, so I started learning about Buddhism. I started learning about Omnism and Taoism, read different sacred texts like the Tao Te Ching and the Quran. I read about the Quran, I read the Tao Te Ching, I started reading different sacred texts just so I can gain a better understanding of relationships with spirit outside of Western culture and Western philosophies, because I felt like I was gravitating more towards Eastern philosophies, especially in the classes that I started taking with like philosophy class, religious philosophy, psychology, because I'm a psychology major. So I started learning about, things like culture and all of that. And the first thing that I learned was not even really a like verbal thing. It was more of this inner knowing that existed in me, which is the omnipresence of spirit through all. I recognized my own spiritual essence, and as soon as I was able to recognize that, I started recognizing it in things outside of me, which is the reason why I started becoming drawn to my indigenous spiritual practices and learning about my roots and learning about ritual. And when I say ritual, sometimes it has a negative connotation, especially in the realm of religion. So, again, be very open minded because ritual can be positive or negative. Obviously, there's polarity that exists in both. There is a spectrum that exists within this all. Identifying this omnipresent spirit that existed allowed me to really tap into the elements, which are very sacred. And to not honor the elements is not honoring God or a higher source or a higher intelligence, because again, it is all interconnected and there is a spiritual essence to all of these elements. And if you think that there is not, then look at yourself, because we hold a lot of these elements within our physical construct. We are composed of the same elements that a lot of the things outside of us, the things that are in the cosmos, are. We have it in us. It is existent, and we are all one. So I began to work with the elements, praying over my food, thanking the earth, grounding without shoes, without having the rubber soles kind of blocking my feet off, putting my palms to the earth, putting my palms to trees, speaking to trees, absorbing sunlight, speaking over water before I consume it, speaking over water before I got into it. In every way, shape, and form that you can think, I began working with the elements, speaking into fire, burning things, working with the wind and allowing the wind to strip whatever it is that was not resonating with me anymore. That is what working with the elements looks like for me. Once you start to recognize the omnipresence in that, you start to realize how everything is essentially united, which is this whole ideology, right, with unity consciousness. And unity consciousness is quite literally awakening to the spiritual essence that binds all of life and all that life is composed of, because you cannot honor life outside of you if you are not honoring your own life. So once you begin to do that and you do recognize the spiritual essence, you see it in everything else. It is so clear to you and you have no other choice but to be aware of it, which is the whole thing with being awake, because your eyes are open and you're exposed to this reality for what it is, and not seeking the distraction from it, because you just become so absorbed into what it is that life is offering you and has always offered you, and you kind of bask in this gratitude. Now, that is not to say that this initial awakened state lasts forever, because it definitely doesn't. You're definitely going to go through the spirals of learning and relearning and forgetting, and then having to go back and remind yourself and have these people that remind you, having people that trigger you so that you're forced to face your shadow and what it is within you that's not healed yet. There is definitely like this spiral that you're going to go through, because that's just the way of life. That's just the way that life occurs, because we're human. So even feeling like I am the formless, I am the spirit, I am bound by nothing, not even my body, even when you get to that point, that is not to say that that is just going to be the eternal state. Now, that can definitely be your core, that can be your foundation, and it can be very, very strong. However, realize that because you are in this human experience, you are bound and susceptible to human emotions and human connection, and what it is that human connection does as far as forcing us to reflect, forcing us to shed, forcing us to honor boundaries, etc., etc. However, even in meeting other beings, awakened or not, you still recognize this oneness, this essence that unites us, and that is our awareness. Because if we're to pause, right, just stop, become extremely present. Extremely present to the point where the past holds no weight over us, right? Unless we intentionally invest our energy into it. That is the only way that life is breathed into the past. And the future is only a concept. It's only an anxiety. It doesn't exist. It's never going to be a real tangible thing because we are living in the future of our past, right? If you want to think about it like that. The present is the only thing that matters. So when you become extremely present alongside these awakened or not awakened beings, you recognize the presence in them. And you realize, I am a mirror to you, and you are a mirror to me, and there actually is no you or me. Once you get to that point of unity consciousness or collective consciousness especially, the you and I separate. Dissolve. They dissolve. And it's literally just I and I. So this I and I, you are just an awareness that is bound to this body and that is having its own human experience as I am. We are one in that. In awakening to this truth, there is no room in your spirit for hate, which is very much the way that, if you want to look at sacred teachers of the past that we learn about, the way that Jesus or Yeshua led his life, the way that the Buddha led his life. These beings were teaching these truths just in different expressions, and it just happened to be documented and retaught and relearned and reiterated in different ways, so that, the separation paradigm started to take place with the building of religion, because religion essentially separated these truths, even though they are essentially interconnected and they're saying similar things and echoing similar truths, because they were spoken by different people, different ascended masters in different spaces and different environments and cultures. Ultimately, they became separated, and it got so far as, people trying to relay their information about their religion onto others and saying this way is the right way and you need to lead your life in this way, otherwise you will be condemned to hell. That is all rooted in this separation old earth paradigm, because separation is what binds you to body, binds you to ego, instead of recognizing the spiritual essence and the oneness in all of life, because all is one. And it is extremely important, once you do awaken to yourself and realize this state of being that you have access to, that you don't try to force it onto other people, right? Because that would just be hypocritical. That's the same thing as your Christian grandmother trying to tell you, you need to do this because this is the right way, and if not, you're going to hell. That is essentially the same thing, just in another form, and that makes you the same as them in, that context. Recognize that no matter what it is that you attempt to share, your excitement, oh my gosh, I just had these huge realizations, my life has changed, I'm this awakened being, I feel so vibrant, I feel so free. Just because you try to relay that to other people does not necessarily mean that they'll have the capacity to understand it, and they may be interested by it and be like, this sounds so beautiful and I'm so proud of you. But just because you are trying to get another being to awaken does not necessarily mean they are going to awaken. A huge thing to recognize is that people have to kind of reach that state on their own. Now, you can give them the tools to build whatever it is that they're building, but you can't build it for them, because that takes away and does a disservice to the labor that they have to go through and the lessons that they have to learn. Because you're just trying to tell them, this is what this lesson is going to teach you, all right, let's move, because I want you to go with me. People are going to have to move at their own pace and build their own relationship with, higher source. You can't force that on anybody. And some people aren't even meant to build it in this lifetime, to be honest, because a lot of people have accumulated a lot of karmic debt to the point where they're just not going to reach it in this lifetime, and that's fine. And you have to accept that, and accept that you did what you could to try and offer these knowings to them, but if they're not in a space to accept it, they're not going to, and that's not on you. That's not your fault, because you did your best. And after that, hands off it. And release the need to control anything, because you did what you could. Ultimately, there are just some people that are going to continue operating in this old earth paradigm. And again, when I say old earth paradigm, it is rooted in separation, it's rooted in lack, it's rooted in fear and anxiety and lust and greed and resentment. That is essentially this lower vibrational state. That is the opposite end of the spectrum, aside from the other end, which is love, unity, gratitude, acceptance, abundance, creation. That and fear cannot coexist. So, whenever there are people that are delving further and further into anxiety and hate and lust and resentment, that cannot coexist with another reality which is rooted in love, rooted in communal healing, rooted in like just building alongside each other, and again recognizing this oneness. Now, the two can coexist in the sense of them like you'll be able to observe the old earth as it's playing out in that reality, but you won't feel tapped into that energy anymore. It's not taking anything from you. You can look at it and be like, wow, that's crazy and that's really ugly, but also there's these beautiful things going on in my life and in my community, and all of the people that I care for and me are doing such beautiful big things. And the shift has become more evident now than ever, especially moving from year 9 to a year 1. Year 9 was a completion year. It was basically a graduation. And so now it's more of like, okay, we have the knowings, we're building this community, let's continue on in this way. And whoever it is that feels called to come onto this side of the spectrum, if you feel like it resonates for you and it works for you better than feeding into the anxiety, feeding into separation, then it is not exclusive at all. It is actually meant to be very inclusive. If you feel drawn to it, it is for a reason. If spirit is calling you, pick it up, because we were granted free will, and free will is beautiful, but also should you choose not to, you're just accumulating more of the lessons that you're going to have to go through with this spiral. And ultimately, with this paradigm shift, there's a downward spiral and there's an upward spiral, and they're both existing at the same time because it's a spectrum. So wherever it is that your energy lies on this spectrum is in your hands. It's on the way that you speak over yourself, the affirmations you use, power of tongue, what it is that you envision, what you write, what you consume, what you watch, what you read, who you talk to, the conversations you invest in, the relationships you invest in, the connections you build, what it is that you do with your time, what it is that you do with your attention, intention, etc., etc. Now, my understanding of spirit is rooted not only in multiple sacred texts and different religious philosophies, and I've kind of accumulated knowledge from all of these, and I decided that I don't want to put a label on my relationship with God or a higher source or the cosmos or nature, because I feel like it's meant to be very fluid. We are meant to continue to learn and to continue to be open, and even if I hear something that I don't necessarily resonate with, that doesn't mean that I have to shut somebody else down just because that serves them, and that's beautiful that serves them, because at least that they have that relationship. But outside of all of that, I also study things like metaphysics and quantum physics and neuroscience and numerology, and that's just because that resonates for me, and that's all things that I find extremely interesting, and I like investing in learning and in being a knowledgeable woman. So a lot of the things that I'll speak about, as far as affirmation, as far as rewiring the brain or attuning yourself, our electromagnetic frequency, whether it's expansive and cohesive or collapsed and incoherent, there's a difference, and these things are backed by science. I will say that they are backed by science, so that for the ones that are like, I only really believe in science, should you want to continue to learn more as far as metaphysics and quantum physics and numerology, and if you want the book recommendations, I can definitely either make a video on that, or you can reach me personally, because I would love to recommend specifically based on what it is that you're attempting to invest in, what it is that you want to learn about. I'll make it more interpersonal for you, so you can reach me on my Instagram at letyoursoul.shine. Let your soul shine, and we can have a conversation. Now, alignment can look like different things, and ultimately you kind of just have to trust. You have to have trust. And you have to continue reaffirming, no matter what reality looks like at any given point, it is all conspiring in your favor. Life does not work against you. It is not happening to you. It is happening for you. And you are also a force that dictates what it is that's occurring. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have control over everything that happens, because again, realistically, we are human and we're susceptible to these human experiences, but trust that it serves a purpose. And you will not be able to see what that purpose is unless you're affirming to yourself that it is serving a purpose, because eventually it will be revealed to you. You are going to know, but you also have to be okay with not knowing in order for you to receive these knowings, which might seem contradictory, but trust. Just trust. Alignment really does look very painful sometimes, because it does look like shedding. It looks like relationships being torn from your life. It looks like losing everything it is that you knew, all of the things that you knew of yourself, losing friendships, losing relationships, losing like ties to family members who just, are reflecting a very ugly version of yourself back to you. And it's like, once you realize that this does not serve me well and I don't feel comfortable operating this space anymore, you start to shift towards what it is that you do envision, what it is that you're attuning your frequency to, because those things are naturally going to be drawn to you because you become a magnet to them. Now, being this magnet, aligning yourself to the Most High, attuning your frequency to that of the Most High Divine Creator, you are automatically going to become a magnet to other awakened beings, to other people who are operating on your same wavelength. And of course, again, that can be two different things. So if you are in this like state of desperation and fear and anxiety and anger and hatred, you're going to attract people who are on that same wavelength, and they're going to continue to try and, you're going to be very comfortable in that. It's what you know. But if you feel like this doesn't serve me well, I don't want to resonate with it anymore, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to, change my whole everything it is that I am. Be okay with releasing what it is that is not for you, because all of that has to be stripped from your life in order for you to receive the new. In order for you to receive your good and receive the things that are intended for you, you have to release the old that is not intended for you, which sometimes is very painful and very confusing because you don't know what's going to happen next. How is it that my life is going to play out without this, without that? Trust. Have the faith. And know that it is all conspiring in your favor, and all of the things that are meant for you are quite literally going to be drawn to you. Just trust and continue on in your path. Trust in yourself. Build such a strong relationship with yourself that anybody else leaving your life doesn't even impact you in the same way, because it's like, okay, it sucks. You were an amazing experience and I hold love for you, but I hold just as much love for myself. And I honor myself, and I honor my human experience. I honor my boundaries, and I do not allow anything less than the love that I am to enter into my reality, enter into my electromagnetic field. You cannot fuck with my frequency. That's essentially the mindset that you start to build once you start affirming these things consistently. If you have the will to dedicate the time and the patience and the care to yourself in the same way that you attempt to offer it to anybody else, you are unfuckwithable. Literally nothing can impact you in the way that you doing something to you is going to impact you. You are the co-creator of your reality, right? Because the Most High is the creator, right? But you hold such a powerful life force energy, specifically if you are affirming that you hold such a powerful life force energy that cannot be fucked with by any outside force, because all of that power, all of that love, all of the abundance, it exists within. It is in you. Recognize that essence and then honor the life in other people, but do not make that your source. Don't say that this person is the reason why I felt this love. You are the source. You are the source. It is coming from you. The only reason that these things exist is because we have the power of perspective, because we have free will, and we have the ability to build our own perspectives and our own opinions and our own philosophies, and we have access to so much knowledge. So why dumb yourself down turning to AI for intelligence? I'm just saying. Don't fall into the illusion of this frustration when it comes to losing everything it is that you once knew, especially if you're undergoing this awakening process. It has to happen. It literally has to happen. When I was undergoing my awakening, I had nothing. I had nobody. It was ugly and it was dark and it was scary, but I learned how to trust myself, to be okay. Life is going to continue moving. It's going to continue in this motion. You just have to be willing to be fluid and continue moving with it. It's not going to leave you behind unless you're staying in this stagnated state and you're not doing anything about it because you choose not to. You have free will. You can choose to build your reality and make yourself up however and whenever you want. You could literally wake up tomorrow and change everything about you, fucking chop your hair off. You could reorganize your room. You know, the feng shui in your room is going to change. There's motion moving. Or you could stay in bed rotting. It's up to you. You have the free will, which is a very beautiful gift. Use it wisely because it's a gift. The present is a present. Take advantage of the fact that you are a human, you are a spirit, that it was granted this human experience, and now, what will you do with that? Know that you have a choice to do whatever it is that you want with that. If you want these grand experiences, these rich, fruitful connections, embody the love that you aspire to see. You know, it's the whole thing with treat others the way that you want to be treated, right? The golden rule. That exists in every single religion. Every single one has a variation of that. Treat others the way that you want to be treated. So, if you want to build these beautiful things for yourself and build your life however it is that you envision it, you have to embody the frequency. You have to attune yourself to your vision. And ultimately, these things are going to start falling into your lap. They're literally just going to come into your life randomly. And you're not going to know when, you're not going to know how. It may present itself in a different way. You have to trust it. Continue to trust. And if you feel like it's not in alignment for you and oh, like if this really doesn't resonate, I might feel comfortable with it, but it doesn't resonate, then release it. Be okay with release. You're going to have to do a lot of releasing, especially in this journey. There's a lot of releasing that comes with it, with releasing old beliefs, friendships, relationships. You're going to continue to evolve. And ultimately, if people are not evolving alongside you, especially in this new earth, old earth paradigm shift, if people are choosing to remain in this state of hate and separation and fear and anxiety and lack, allow them to. Offer what you can, but if they don't want to take it, don't force it down their throat. Allow them to have what makes them comfortable. Don't let that make you devolve. Don't shrink yourself down and dim yourself to try and fit into somebody's reality when you outgrew the space. If you outgrew the space, walk into bigger rooms. Go into spaces where you're forced to learn, where you're forced to grow. And it's not going to be comfortable, but it's necessary and it's going to be worth it in the long run. Trust me, I'm a testament to this. And ultimately, be extremely fluid. Be open to learning and be open to receiving new knowledge and learning about new philosophies and learning about new theories, and speak to other people about their beliefs too. If you're genuinely curious, don't be afraid to have those conversations. And if they're not comfortable with it, that's probably just because they don't have a good grasp and an understanding on what it is that they believe in, which is fine. It's not negative. That is not a negative, and it's very important for you not to label it as a negative, because then that's only you falling into ego and thinking that that's a negative because I'm the positive. That's ego speaking. That's separation. And ultimately, old earth. Honor the essence in them and the version of them that is willing to try and is at least having these beliefs and that, you know, is building this relationship the best way that they know how, and give them grace in the same way that you would give yourself grace, because again, we're all human. Human. We're all light beings that were granted a vessel, and it's up to us to relearn what it is to operate as a channel for the divine, to allow ourselves to be a prism to the light of the creator. All of us have to come to that on our own terms, in our own timing. Now, you can offer the tools, but you can't build anything for anybody else. Build it for yourself. Don't worry. It'll all work itself out. And ultimately, again, fear and love cannot coexist. So God fearing is still rooted in fear, and it's rooted in obeying and worship versus honoring the essence of life that exists within all, the omnipresence, which is God. While there are a lot of things that impact our understanding of spirit, like culture and environment and family and history and etc., know that it is up to you and you alone to be open to changing your mode of thinking. And again, if you want to create a new self for you, start right now. Start right now. Start tomorrow as you rise, because we rise. We don't mourn in the morning because that has connotations with death. Stop saying morning when you rise. The sun rises, the moon rises, and we rise. Rise. And awaken to the present as it is unfolding in front of your eyes. Know that you are the creator and that you hold power over your perspective. And I love you. I love you. I love you as I love myself. I honor you as I honor myself. And I pray that this reaches who it is that's meant to receive it exactly when it is that they're meant to receive it. And I hold so much love and gratitude for you being present with me. And if you would like to follow along in my journey or any other knowings it is that I offer to this channel by me being a channel, obviously you can subscribe, or you can reach me personally on my social media pages and we can conversate. I would love to continue to build this community with these people who tune into me. I value you. I love you. I'm grateful for you. Have an amazing present moment.